Welcome back to Portland Today, one of my favorite segments, Parenting SOS. We're going to get some help. And I think we've all had times when our children didn't want to listen to us. My little daughter used to always say, "Mama, you are not the boss of me."
Oh, but I am, honey.
Bad news, sweetheart. But how do you tell if they're just being their little sassy selves or if you're dealing with a bigger issue, perhaps a defiant child? And joining us to talk about it today is Sarah Carl-Lunas, an assistant professor of psychology and behavioral neuroscience with OHSU. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
So what are we talking about, Sarah? What creates a defiant child? How do you define that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the first thing to remember is exactly what you said, that for many kids, tantrums and defiance are really a normal part of their development. So we want our kids to grow up to be confident, assertive, independent, and unfortunately for parents, part of how kids do that is by testing their limits when they're young children. Yeah. The things that we look for as psychologists to really tell when this might be crossing over into something that's a concern, we look at the frequency. So young kids will have tantrums, several times a week even, but if these things are happening every day, multiple times a day, that might be a sign that that there's a bigger concern.
They might be having trouble like controlling their own emotions.
Yeah, exactly. Problems regulating their own emotions, so having kind of meltdowns, crying, screaming, aggressive behavior, or defiant arguing, "No, I'm not going to do that, I refuse." Again, these things all happen very normally some of the time, but if they're happening most of the time, that can be a concern. We also look at the intensity. So if these are things where behavior is lasting, the tantrums are lasting 30 minutes or more consistently, or kids are being aggressive towards others or towards themselves and trying to hurt themselves during the course of tantrums,
and
those are red flags.
Excuse me, it can feel like 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah,
so
that
you actually probably need to watch the clock on that one. And what about video? I mean, parents have the power now to just turn on a cell phone, capture video for you. Does that help you in your work?
It can be helpful. A lot of times what you do when you meet with a psychologist, if you do have concerns, is to talk through sort of what happened first that led up to the tantrum, what happened during the tantrum, and what happened after, and that helps us identify what the causes are, because those can be different for every kid.
And for heaven's sakes, we should take the stigma away of meeting with a psychologist, because you study kids' brains. I mean, you know more about what's happening there.
Yeah. I think there's still a lot of, parents can feel a lot of blame or judgment around these kind of things. What I always like to tell parents is that they may not be the cause, but they're the biggest part of the solution, because they have the most hours they spend with a kid every day. And the strategies that work for kids who have sort of a behavioral disorder are going to work for any kid. So really the strategies that we're teaching parents are things that are just tweaking normal parenting behavior.
I know we only have a few minutes, but give me a strategy.
Yeah, so there's a couple really good ones. For young kids, one of the easiest things parents can do is help them label their emotions. Kids often don't have the language skills to be able to express what they're feeling, which really prevents them from then dealing or coping with that emotion. So just saying, "Hey, I see you're getting frustrated right now." Teaching kids to take self-timeouts. And for parents, being really consistent. So as much as you can, you don't have to be perfect at it, but when you say yes, it means yes, and when you say no, it means no, and sticking to that can be really important.
Maybe parents need to do one of those, demo things where they give themselves a timeout when they have a certain emotion.
Oh gosh, there were many times I would have loved a timeout, let me tell you.
Mommy's in timeout.
Yeah, self-timeouts are actually a great strategy, and that's one way parents can model for their kids how to kind of use these strategies too. So saying, "Hey, I need a break right now to calm down," doing some breathing exercises, even to the extent you can that you maybe have a partner who can support you, taking time out to go do something that's indulgent for yourself. Those self-care activities can be really important for you being able to come back and parent as effectively as you can.
Well, and I think it's important not to take it all personally. I read this little thing once that said, "My child is not giving me a bad time, my child is having a bad time." And sometimes that's what it is.
That's a good way to sum it up.
Yeah, definitely. It's important to remember that kids, this is their way of trying to express what they need or want in the world, and we want to teach them better strategies for doing that so we don't have to keep having tantrums throughout, when they're a teenager, but it's really a way of them trying to express what they need.
Wait a minute, teenagers are supposed to have tantrums too, right?
They do occasionally too,
Okay.
There's the terrible 2s and the terrible 12 through 18.
There you go. Thank you so much. Great information.
Great, thanks so much for having me.
Very helpful. Let's turn now